And hello. Welcome to the Absolute Football Podcast, the absolutely Premier League show, although with some Champions League live updates today. Apologies, that's why we're a couple of minutes late, because there was a penalty call in the Liverpool game and it caught Grimmy and I's attention because, we love a big moment, but no penalty to Liverpool was the answer. So welcome to the Premier League show, of course. We're going to go through all the weekend's games, what's happened, what's the latest news, what's the latest stories, what's happening all around the 20 Premier League clubs. But of course, I couldn't do it on my own. So I've enlisted a man who's returned. He's returned from his travels. He's seen the globe. He's seen it all. So is there a better man to be joining me today than Senor Grimmy? Welcome back, Grimmy. How are you?
I'm well, Sam. Thanks very much for having me back. And yes, well rested, well travelled, well fed as well whilst I've been in America. So yeah, ready to go, as they say. How are you doing, Sam?
Glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear you're well fed as well. It's important.
Yes.
Always important to be well fed. That's a key to happiness. I'm doing very well, mate. Yes, I am very good. It's a busy time of year. We had Halloween and all that jazz, didn't we? And plenty going on. And yeah, it's busy. But there's plenty of football to keep us on our toes. And particularly with the Champions League at the minute. Goal alert just coming on my screen. 2-0 to Bayern Munich at Paris Saint-Germain. 2 goals for Luis Diaz by the looks of it. So very exciting there. And very exciting because it's not just us, there's people in the chat as well. So Graham's here. Graham's here, even though it's half time between Charlton 0, West Brom 0. But Charlton have missed a penalty, so a bit disappointing, but a poor half on both sides from Graham. Can only get better, Graham. Can only get better. That's the dream. And Sean is here. Good evening, everyone. Hope all is well. Yeah, we're doing all right. We're pleased to be here, particularly as well. We will come to later in the show. Grimmy and I get to talk more positively about our team, probably for the first time in a long time. But we'll save that. We won't use that just yet. We'll start somewhere else, and we'll start with Grimmy. There's been another sacking. Sacking. So let's bring that up straight off the bat. Fulham versus Wolves was the game. 3-0 was the score to Fulham. Some of the defending from Wolves was pretty woeful in keeping with the rest of the season. And Vítor Pereira has been sacked. I won't ask you, is it a surprise? Because I think it was kind of another one that was coming. But what's going on at Wolves, Grimmy? What do they do now?
That's a good question. I mean, I think the first thing when he got sacked, it wasn't a surprise to anybody, like you say, Sam. And the thing that was most surprising during this sort of start to the season is the fact that they gave him a 2-year extension. I get the idea of trying to keep him there and showing solidarity and giving him a bit of support and maybe showing the players that he's not going anywhere. But the players had stopped playing for him, really. I mean, the performance against Fulham, by Wolves, was nothing more than abject and lifeless. And I think if you're getting to that point where you've been on the run that they've been on, there's no other decision to be made than to get rid of Pereira. Where they go next, I couldn't tell you. I know, was it Gary O'Neill?
Gary O'Neill was pulled out, didn't he?
Yeah, he's been in, and then now he's out, and now he's shaking it all about. And now it's like Ten Hag is rumored, apparently. So yeah, Big Sam's put his name in the hat. I honestly don't know at this point what Wolves do. I think they need hopefully a fresh manager bounce, because I think that's the only thing that's going to get them pulling closer to pulling off a great escape. Because as we'll get onto with other fixtures, with the likes of Forest and West Ham, other teams around them, or maybe just above them, are starting to pull away a little bit and show a bit of life now. So they need to get the right guy in, and hopefully he can work some miracles, because that's what they're going to need if they're going to pull this off, I think.
It looks like in the minute, and based on recent performances, and say in particular that Fulham game, just the defending. I mean, the first goal came from one ball through the middle, complete misjudgment. Defender, midfielder, both came for it, played around the side, and before you know it, Fulham were through on goal. And this was a Fulham side that were struggling for form themselves. They hadn't won, I think, in 4. So pressure on a little bit. Would expect to kind of to win with how it's been going for Wolves, but it just. As you said, it's just not. You look through the team and you look through the squad as well. And it's just not there for me. It's just not there. It's it's a team that's been assembled again of players that haven't got Premier League experience is a very big risk. I think you can keep taking those risks, and I think it's just kind of a symptom of maybe how Wolves seem to have been managed over years. Because I think I saw a stat: they've sold their captain the last 3 seasons in a row. When you the team that they've had, players that they've had in this summer. So you lost Aït-Nouri, you lost Cunha, you lost Semedo. Previous seasons, you've got people like Fulham had Jimenez and Adama Traore at Wolves not too long ago. You've got Neves, you've got Moutinho, you've got Connor Cody's gone, Max Kilman went. It's just a list, of players that have gone, and you just think, and you could hear it with the crowd were fuming at the board and the owners, which always gets it. The Fosun group, isn't it? The Chinese ownership group that they have.
Yeah.
Is it Jeff Shi as well? The chairman's under pressure as well. Do you think it's higher up? Do you think that's where things are going to need to change?
It's easy to say that the owners are the problem, because I think that's what you get with a lot of, obviously, every football club. As soon as it starts to go wrong, it's easy to point at the ownership. I think that in this case, though, with Wolves, it has just been mismanaged top to bottom, whether that's come from the owners or directors of football or whoever's in charge management-wise. I think signings obviously play a crucial component or part in this. It's all well and good selling your best players, but Wolves aren't exactly like a Brighton or a Bournemouth, where they've got this pool of talent on a piece of paper where they can just go, okay, if Cunha goes, we're going to bring in this guy and he's basically going to do like for like. If we get rid of Semedo and Aït-Nouri, like you said, they don't have like for like. Bournemouth have replaced 3 of the back 4 and are still in the top 4 of the Premier League at the minute. Again, that will probably change as the season goes on, but again, they've had a brilliant start, and Wolves have had the complete opposite without really bringing anyone in that's going to cause any damage. And that's the problem I think anyone coming in taking the Wolves job's going to have, is that they're not going to have a lot of talent to play with on the pitch, and they're going to have to either batten down the hatches and become a really solidly defensive team and just scrape with like the odd draw and 1-0 wins or something like that. But I don't really see that coming from any of their players. Like, I don't see it's not like a West Ham where they've got Bowen and Paqueta and people like that who can pull them out of a game. They don't really have anyone that's going to do that. And I do worry about Wolves potentially, if this new manager comes in and doesn't give them a bit of a bounce, that they could get less points than the Southampton did last year. I think like we're in that sort of territory at the minute.
And it's looking difficult because a few games ago, they had some spirited performances against Tottenham and Brighton, in 2 teams that have been, fairly doing well start of the season. Got pegged by a couple of late goals. And I think we said at the time, Sunderland and Burnley, 2 massive games. Obviously, Sunderland playing really well, but away, I think that was always going to be difficult. But the result at home to Burnley was kind of the bit where you went, this just isn't going anywhere. And then on top of that, a massive loss to Fulham. They're at Chelsea next week as well, away from it. As you said, that squad, I just don't. The midfield looks weak. They played through so easily. You look at I can't remember if it was the second or the third goal at the weekend where it was sort of cut back and they finished off. It was just the positioning. There's no coordination between the back line. There didn't seem to be that, as you said, they're not playing for the manager. There wasn't running back. And even Pereira's comments afterwards, you knew he was done when he said, yeah, tactically we weren't good today. You're like, well, yeah. That's kind of like putting your hand up and saying, shoot me, shoot me, it was me. I think he looked like he'd had enough, didn't he? So how they change this, don't know. Why as a manager would you want to come in? It's a big job on.
I think the only reason you're taking that job on is if you are desperate to get back in the Premier League and just have another crack at it, or if you're getting assurances from them that if the Wolves board basically say we're under the impression we're probably going down this year. If we go down, then we're going to back you to essentially bring us straight back up. So yeah, there's those few names that you might be able to think of, but again, the names that have been linked, I wouldn't necessarily think would take the job either. Like, I think I read somewhere that Rob Edwards, who's at Borough at the minute, was linked with it, and I know he's a bit of a legend in those parts, but with what he's doing with Middlesbrough, potentially getting them promoted. He's in the fight for promotion this year with them. Why would you, like you say, why would you go to Wolves right now? And I think it's only someone that's either desperate for a job or really wants a really wants a mammoth challenge to take on that's going to take it. So yeah, I don't have anything but sympathy for someone that whoever it is that takes that job on. And probably in the next few days, I'd imagine they'll probably have someone in. But yeah, I really feel for them to get them out of that hole.
They're obviously looking to move quick because they were talking to Gary O'Neill pretty quickly. But I mean, that tells you enough, doesn't it? The fact that they're going to speak to Gary O'Neill as a manager that less than 12 months ago they decided wasn't their guy for many reasons, and it's almost like, okay, we'll go back there to try and steady a ship. And I mean, it's too soon for me. There's so much water, that needs time. I always think if someone does go back somewhere, particularly if it ends the way that it ends, I think less than a year is just. Do you know what I mean? Too much. Like, I think they probably would have hoped maybe this had happened a bit earlier and that Nuno was about potentially, and that you could kind of like go back down that route, and that might have been. Yeah. But there's just a lot to be done there. And as you said, they can't do anything with the squad until January. Who knows what they might be able to do? I think they're struggling in a number of areas. Sean says they may as well show their Sean Wolves may as well show all their games on Comedy Central. They certainly need to find a win from somewhere. And a latest score from Sean, we're expecting Champions League scores, and also we've got the Northants Hillier Cup with the Northampton. Yes. Is it Northampton Silly Billies? Silly Billy Rangers 3.
Silby Rangers, I would assume.
Silby Rangers 3. Corby Town 6 at half time. I mean, that's
9 goals at half time. There you go.
That's an absolute fest going on there. So no defences.
Could we get a triple Desmond?
A triple Desi? I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. A 6 or
unknown territory. That
treble Desis. I mean, that is the start of the apocalypse if that's the case. But, you do worry. The other thing I worry for them as well is because the one player I do rate in their team is Jorgen Strand Larsen. I do think with the right service, with the consistency, I think he's going to bag you goals, and I think there'll be a lot of people that might be willing. We saw he almost went to Newcastle at the back end of this transfer window. I wouldn't be surprised if some people go for him in January. And is he going to want to stick around? He'll be going, this is on the road to nowhere. And again, depends who comes in, the way they play. Some of those names, though, I mean, even like Ten Hag, he's had a really rough time at Leverkusen. That last bit, it hasn't gone well. And the scrutiny that will come with him coming back to the Premier League, at this moment in time, I think is probably something more than he does. So I'm not sure which way they're going to go.
No, I honestly have no idea. I think if they'd done this like 2 weeks ago, like the two managers that you probably would want to pick to replace them have already been taken in Sean Dyche and Nuno. So, and again, Nuno would have probably been an even better effect because it's him going back to the club where, apart from obviously Forest, he's had the most success in the Premier League. So, and he's obviously got a good relationship with the fans there before he left. So, yeah, I think that one would have written itself. But yeah, it's a mess, to put it kindly.
It's a mess, and it's a sad end because Pereira came in so well. In April, I think they went on a six-game winning streak, and they looked really good towards the back end of last season. And looked like he'd kind of got something together. And then, that obviously changes in the squad, changes in what they're doing. But I did also hear that Wolves giving him a bit more power in terms of the recruitment, and I think they've done the same with that in the past, and that seems to backfire. But this is now the second time they've given someone a 3-year contract, and they've had to sack them within weeks. So if they're talking to you about a contract extension, the writing might well be on the wall. Wall for you. So we've got, Liverpool, Real Madrid is 0-0 going into half-time. Almost a couple of good saves so far from Courtois, though. Szoboszlai had one on the edge of the box. So it's definitely some action going on. And, I'm not seeing too much from Real Madrid on the other side, but they do look threatening going forward at the very least. So it looks like it's going to be 0-0 at half-time there. Arsenal won earlier as well, didn't they? So they're doing what Arsenal were doing, and we'll maybe talk about them very briefly later. But Graham says if at least one of the promoted clubs don't stay up this year, then I don't think it'll ever happen. Well, last time was, as Heather will tell us, was the season of Bournemouth, Nottingham Forest, and Fulham, wasn't it? So that's what they're trying to emulate. And speaking of Fulham, quickly, because obviously we have them on the screen and they won 3-0, so we have to give them some props. Played very well, picked off, and a much needed win for them, wasn't it? Because it started to. They've quietly been slipping down into some worrying times with some poor results. So do you think they've just had a bad run and that Fulham can pick themselves up? Because not quite seen the Fulham of last season yet.
Yeah, I think it was just a little bit of a blip, really. I think even in the games I'd seen of them in that run, they'd still played pretty decent stuff. I don't think it was a cause for concern. I just don't think they maybe had done enough to maybe win the games. Like the Bournemouth game we watched, obviously on the channel for the first watch long did for the Prem. They were in that game defensively. They were really solid, and it wasn't really until the sort of last 20 minutes when it started to fall apart. And even then, you can add the caveat of they didn't have Jimenez and Munoz, is it? The other foreign striker?
Yeah, Muniz, yeah.
They didn't have like an outlet up top. If they had that, arguably, with some of the chances they had or might have been able to make, they probably could have got themselves 3 points at Bournemouth until the end. So yeah, I feel like they were. I mean, Fulham were one of those teams. It's similar to Palace, where I always feel comfortable in the notion that they're going to be fine, even if they go on a 3-4 game run without picking up points or whatever. So yeah, it's obviously a good win. Any win at any time is a good thing. And yeah, if they'd lost to Wolves, I think that would have obviously been even more concerning, considering where Wolves are at the minute. But yeah, getting a win at home, like we were saying, it's always a good thing. So yeah, good win for Fulham.
Big positive. And you see, they started Kevin. They
did, yes, I saw that. Yeah,
Kevin to start helps, and then also Chukwueze came on and looked quite exciting. I thought dribbling towards the end caused a couple of problems for them. Do you know what I think it is for them? Like because Muniz might be. There's rumours that Muniz wants out, isn't there? I think start of the season there was, and I think he's injured at the moment. But you know who they could get as a striker, Grimmy? Jorgen Strand Larsen, I think would fit Fulham perfectly, actually. So there we go. Just putting a little rumour mill out there, you know.
Yeah. When you said about Strand Larsen, the initial team that went in my head was Everton. Because I don't think Beto likes
Beto or Barry. You're not a Beto or Barry fan.
Not that I'm not a Beto or Barry fan. Beto I have deep fondness for because of his many times scoring millions of goals for me in my Football Manager saves. But David Moyes has said it publicly and many times that Beto doesn't do the things that he wants him to do. And I think with a youngster like Strand Larsen, he can probably get what he wants out of him. So maybe that might be somewhere, especially if Everton are sort of on that trajectory that they're on of being out of trouble and, you know, building something for the future, then yeah, that may well be another destination. But yeah, certainly Fulham, like you say, I could certainly see that happening as well.
Could be a possibility. Welcome to some new people coming in the chat as well. And they say that we are talking, I think there's one about Manchester United in there. We are going to Manchester United later, so do not fear. We will cover the Manchester United chat. The next place I want to go, because while Wolves seem to be on that kind of escalation to nowhere, a team that have been on the escalation to nowhere have been, to be fair, battered left, right and centre so far by, I think, everybody for their performances so far. They now have a new manager in, of course, and changes are afoot this weekend. If I find the right graphic that's in front of me before I completely ruin that setup by putting a completely different team up. There we are. There they are. West Ham with a 3-1 victory over Newcastle. The first win for Nuno Espirito Santo. A very important win for West Ham. Played very well against Newcastle. I think we've been quite critical of their midfield in recent games and how they looked a little bit slow, a little off the pace. But who knew, Grimmy? Freddie Potts. Freddie Potts was the answer. And that sort of midfield combination they had with him and Fernandes gave him a bit more stability, and they looked a lot better. What did you think?
Yeah, I mean, watching the sort of highlights back of the game and then seeing Bowen in the first few minutes hitting the post, and then within 30-40 seconds Murphy going up the other end and scoring.
Here we go again.
It was like, even I felt the dread for West Ham at that point, not knowing the score or anything. But yeah, it was a great performance. It was a performance that suggested that West Ham maybe aren't the bottom three club that they currently are. It was a performance that I think you could see the blueprint of Nuno's teams of effort, drive, having a go, which I think we haven't really seen for West Ham for a good while, really. So yeah, it's a massive result for them. It puts a bit of pep in the step for them, I'm sure, over the next few games, because they've got a tricky run coming up. And yeah, again, one good result, as we know, can change everything for a team in the Premier League. and then being a team like Newcastle, again, Newcastle not necessarily being the best travellers this season, but again, they're a strong Newcastle team who played a lot of the first 11. It wasn't like they'd rotated a lot or anything like that. I think it's an excellent result for them, and will give that team and the fans something to build on, really. So, yeah, great result for West Ham, and more importantly for Nuno to get that first win as well, to get the fans on side, I think.
Some more hopes and belief amongst West Ham fans now. Hello to Jen. Join us. Our wonderful Jen is in the chat, of course, for our fantastic non-league side. And Graham says a much-needed win for West Ham. That could really kickstart this season. As you mentioned, Grimmy, with the matches coming up. Burnley on Saturday, which they'll look at and could be a huge fixture. But I mean, it just shows, as you said, Bowen hitting the post and sort of moments that they have. If they can sort of solidify, Wan-Bissaka was really good at the weekend actually as well, and he's not started the season well at all. If he can just get some more out of what they have, I think I saw Michael Carrick talking about it, and I think he was less, well, I've seen a lot of people quite critical pundit-wise. He was like, I think they've got some good players. They just need to bed in under Nuno in terms of what they're doing and get those players on the pitch. Not the players on the pitch, get them in the right positions, probably more so with Bowen and whatever, and Paquetá. And maybe that midfield allows them to do it. Because my worry for them, as you said, going into this, look at that Newcastle 3. Tonali, Joe Linton and Bruno Guimaraes. And maybe, we'll ask that question now, because Newcastle don't seem to be the same team away from home. Those 3 don't seem to be the same sort of team away from home. Did you worry for them as well, thinking they're weak, they could get played through, Newcastle could control this middle? Because Eddie Howe was pretty scathing of their performance.
Yeah, I think it's very difficult for most teams, I think, to play against that Newcastle midfield. I genuinely, I would put that in the top 2 or 3 midfields in the league. I think the effort, the drive, obviously the passion that the players have on any given week can never be questioned. How many times do you see a ball get cleared or booted out, and then Bruno Guimaraes or Joe Linton's grabbing the player by the scruff of the neck and shaking them in celebration or whatever? So yeah, I like that performance from Newcastle was very off key for them. Not necessarily a concerning one, because everyone can have an off day, but obviously they are looking for consistency. They've had obviously some losses, quite a few losses already this season, and they don't want that to snowball. So I think obviously next week they'll be looking for a big jump start, really, to get them back on track. But yeah, I was very surprised by how lackluster that performance was from Newcastle, because again, whatever 11 they tend to put out or have put out under the Eddie Howe regime, the one thing you can never really say about them is that there's a lack of effort there, and that really seemed to be missing on Sunday. So yeah, we'll be interested to see how they bounce back, because obviously they've got the Champions League this week, and yeah, we'll see obviously what happens there in terms of them taking it forward, basically. I don't know who they've got next in the league, but yeah, they need to start finding that consistency, I think, if they're going to get challenging for European places again.
I think they have away at Brentford, according to my list here, is their next match, which is not a good, easy place to go. And away form has been the problem. They're not a team that tend to concede too many goals. The 3's maybe a surprise, but when you look at the goals, the way they kind of conceded them. The 3rd was, they were chasing the game. They got outnumbered, didn't they, on the counter attack, and Souček slid in, and then they had the own goal, of course, as well, which is kind of a bit unfortunate for them. But you look at their away games and you're just thinking, well, they're yet to win away from home. That goal that they scored this weekend was only their 2nd away goal that they've scored all season. I'm sure, I think we've mentioned a few times that you've endured some Newcastle away 0-0s at the start of the season, which won't be remembered for you for too much longer, I don't think. But
no.
But they're struggling. They're struggling away from home to pick up points and results. And I guess is at what point, what are we expecting from Newcastle this season? Because Champions League, obviously, as well, is going to take its toll. It did last time. Where do you think they should be? I mean, should they be already up knocking around the top 6? Or do you think this Newcastle is a step off from what we've seen before?
I mean, at the start of the season, I definitely expected them to be top 6, top 7 with the squad that they've got. I think, obviously, the thing that confuses me a little bit is we haven't really seen a lot of Elanga. And now, again, I don't know the ins and outs of the Newcastle squad, so I don't know if there's been injuries or if it's a case that Eddie Howe just hasn't liked what he's seen in training, or Elanga's just getting used to the system. I don't know what it is, but obviously they've bought in Elanga. They've got other forward players on the bench that can play. And, I know Murphy scored the goal on Sunday, but, there's other people that they can use in that system. And it just seems like that forward line, he tends to stick with the same 2 or 3 players. So, yeah, so maybe some of the signings haven't maybe hit the ground running yet, and maybe Elanga needs to get up to speed, which is ironic considering how quick he actually is. But
he is speedy.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a strange one. I think to answer your original question, though, like for me, I still see Newcastle as a top 7, top 6 team. I think they have a midfield that can battle with any midfield, probably not only in the Premier League, but in Europe. I think obviously Walter Marder has had a good start. He scored a few goals for them, so you can't exactly look at on his end of things that it's not been great. And yeah, defensively, they have a good enough defense to keep people out. It's just obviously Livramento being out for as long as he isn't obviously great for them, and that's obviously going to be a big miss on whatever side he plays on, because I know he plays on both wings. So yeah, I think they're more than good enough. I put them above Villa in my predictions, and I would still believe that by the end of the season, they should still be there above Villa by the end of the season. Because again, I think it's just consistency. Once they get on a run, because they had a similar start last year, but then they went on that 10 league game winning streak. Obviously, they had Isak up front as well, which obviously is a big help. But they obviously went on that run. They had the Carabao Cup going on as well. So all it'll take for Newcastle to sort of flick back into life, like we're saying about West Ham, is 1 or 2 good results in a row, and it'll build from there. So yeah, if they can kickstart with a win in the Champions League tomorrow, then yeah, who knows where they could end up. But I firmly believe they'll be top 7, if not top 6.
Yeah, they need to, as you said, some injuries, some players missing. We see Johan Visser, aren't we? That's obviously a big signing they've made this summer. You'd expect that's going to be an interesting one when that comes in, how well he played last season. But look at the games coming up. They're not, away at Brentford's tricky. Brentford have been very good at home again this season, sort of, above expectations. Manchester City at home, we'll come to in a minute, playing well. Everton away, that new crowd there, I know they've had a couple of iffy results, but always a threat. Tottenham at home. Tottenham seem to be better away from home than anything else. So, yeah, they'll need to pick up quickly, but obviously Tao, I would imagine this week will be sort of really on them, being that performance wasn't good enough, quite frankly, with what he would have expected, and he was quite open about that in the press conference. So not great for Newcastle, but West Ham starting to knock up. There's been a 7th goal in the Corby game.
Good Lord,
good Lord Almighty, we've hit 10 goals in 60 minutes. I mean, it's money. It's money for your buck. Money for your buck if you're down there watching that game. Where should we go next, Grimmy? Let's go to, I'll tell you where we will go, because we did mention Manchester City. And we do have to talk about it, because actually a victory over Bournemouth is a very, very good victory this season, because I think, if I'm right, they're the second team to do it so far this season after Liverpool from the opening day. Are they just Erling Haaland, Gumi? Because that's all anybody talks about, but it's surely more than just Erling Haaland. Ryan Cherky was very good this weekend for them as well. But Haaland's been fantastic. There's no doubt about it. But do you think it's as simple as Haaland goes injured, we're back to Man City of last year? Is that the big difference, or is it subtly behind the scenes and everyone's just getting excited because obviously Haaland's been phenomenal?
I think it's more the latter. I think if you say if Haaland got injured, I think City would struggle. I still think they'd find a way, but I think it wouldn't necessarily be 2, 3, 4 goals a game. It would be maybe streaky by with 1-0 wins and a couple of draws here or there. I don't see the same City as last year, even if they've maybe not played as well as we know they can at times. I still think that they're a better version than what they were last year, because last year it was, I think, as we said on the podcast many a time, I think they just hit a wall, and a lot of the players were done and were ready to move on, or City were ready for those players to move on. I think with obviously the injection of the squad that they've got this year, you look at Cherky, Reinders, people like that, I think obviously it's given them a bit of energy in the middle, and it's made a big difference. Now, it's very easy to turn around and say, but they've still got Haaland. Yes, he scored however many goals already this year, but you still need the base and the platform to get the ball up to him. And obviously, Cherky got a couple of assists yesterday, and I'm sure we'll probably get plenty more. As he said in his post-match interview, sorry. I've basically been told to give the ball to Erling. That's a pretty simple instruction in the grand scheme of things.
I'll be honest, it's the kind of management I'd be doing, I think.
To be fair, when I start playing FM26 properly, if I ever get Erling Haaland in my team, my instruction will be give that man the ball and he'll win his games. So, yeah, I think it's a bit derivative to say it's just Haaland, but again, he's their main man. If he scores 40, 50 goals this year, then City are doing the right thing, giving him the ball and giving him the chances. So they're obviously playing to a tactic that's working for them, and that's what they should be doing. If you play to your strengths, and the strength being Erling Haaland, then it's going to work 9 times out of 10, and that's what they should be doing. And it's proving successful so far. So they're going to keep doing it until someone can find a way to stop him, which I don't think many people will.
No, there's no Erling Haaland defensive kind of equivalent, is there? I mean, not at least on a weekly basis that you can find to stop him. And I think the way Bournemouth play helped a bit because you don't often get that situation where Haaland's breaking through from the halfway line just because of the line and whatever. And City were clever how they played through that a couple of times. City, the first goal, and they sort of scooped it up around the corner. But I mean, when he runs through, it's just...
It's inevitable.
It
just feels inevitable.
It feels inevitable. And to be fair, the ball that came through to him, it was bouncing. There was 2 or 3 touches that were really important. Like he got the one with his head down to get it on there, and then he could have bounced away, but he got it with his foot to control it. But he also, the way he moves his body across, you're like, if anyone gets near him, they're just bouncing off him anyway. But he's so quick, he gets away. So it gives him that extra bit. And then obviously when he gets in the finishing zone, as Graham says here, he's just purely a cheat code. So just a phenomenal finish. And I think everyone slept on it a bit last season because City were struggling, but as we said, this season they're playing more for him. They've realised that maybe we don't have some other things, but what we do have up front is an absolute Terminator. Get him the machine, and he will just drive it through you again and again and again. How many goals can he get, Grimmy? Are we talking crazy record levels?
I think so. I think, like I said, 40, 50, I think is probably going to be the remit for him. If he's nearly at 20 now, I don't know how many he is on now, but if he's nearly at 20 now, with cup runs, Champions League, I mean, he could score an absolute bucket load. And to be fair, if he stays at City, there's no way he doesn't beat Shearer's record, by the way. Like his competition with himself might be, can I beat Shearer's record before I'm 30? That might be his achievement. And when you consider that there's all this talk of Harry Kane maybe coming back to try and beat the record, you might come back for 2 years, beat the record, and then Haaland beats it like 3 years later. So yeah, it's crazy the levels he's at. And even when he's had a not so great season, he's still scoring buckets and buckets of goals. So yeah, the man is a cheat code, like Graham says, and I'm glad we don't have to play him every week. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. I'm just watching it as Liverpool have had a couple of big chances, and Thibaut Courtois, by the way, is still absolutely world class. What I've seen tonight, some phenomenal saves he's picked up. But Graham's going with 803 goals for Haaland. It's not bad, I guess, Graham. It's not bad. Yeah. I guess you said, Grimmy, the issue comes is how long he will stay. Is he a career man at City? Is he? A lot of people think maybe at some stage the Madrid card will come calling and they'll go that route, or who knows what's in the future. But for now, he's a Premier League wrecking ball. And for Bournemouth, I don't think they'll be too disappointed with the way their kind of season's gone. Perhaps that they might have hoped to have competed a bit better in this one. But I think all things concerned, league position, you can't be too disappointed, I suppose. And they did have some chances. There was a couple. Yeah. Krupi had some chances. Heather's been talking about last couple of weeks, and he's played very well in recent matches. And I like the fact that they seem to have more threats outside of Semenyo in recent weeks as well. It's not, Semenyo's dried up, but actually players around him, Tavernier, Krupi's been really good. David Brooks has looked decent in there as well, and some of the other ones they've got coming in. So I'm not too worried about Bournemouth for that one result. But
not at all, no.
It is what it is. So I think next week you've got Manchester City take on Liverpool. Manchester City, Liverpool. That is tasty at the Etihad. That is exciting. Looking forward to that one. And Bournemouth, if I check my fixture list, away at Villa. Villa. So again, another intriguing one for them. So shall we move, Grimmy, to the red side of Manchester? Because it's been a while. It's been a while. And the narrative has changed somewhat since we probably last spoke. I'm trying to think, we last spoke on the pod. It was pre-Man United Liverpool. So it was after Sunderland, wasn't it?
We were doing the last time we spoke, Sam. I was doing a prediction for the United Liverpool game.
Did, and we haven't found the clip, but I'm pretty sure, and people who watch this will be able to back it up, that Grimmy said, wouldn't it be lovely if Harry Maguire scored a winner at Anfield? And we all went, oh, in the wildest of dreams. And then lo and behold, less than a week later, we're living in Grimmy's dreams. And what a wonderful place it is to live. So we will come back to the Nottingham Forest United game in a minute, but obviously with Grimmy being a Manchester United fan, I want to get your take on how are you now with how everything is? The Liverpool game, the change, the transition. It's a massive difference in the few games that we've had. Bit of consistency. How do you feel about everything now?
Oh, I mean, it's like everything in life. Everything changes with the season. So last time you saw me, I was wanting to watch that match behind curtains or hide behind the sofa or something. And now I'm just like, bring on the next one. Yeah, I mean, look, you can't knock the fact that having not won back-to-back games and then winning 3 in a row, and then obviously getting a draw away to Forest when we were 2-1 down as well, let's not forget, I think is a brilliant turn of results. Obviously, we aren't the finished article, far from it. But if it's the start of the transition to us turning this ship around, then you can only have praise for Amorim, for the players, for keeping their heads in and doing what they needed to do, when there's been plenty of criticism thrown at both of them, both the players and the manager. And I've been one of those guys that's been critical of certain parts of that squad. And again, we're going to have dips. We're probably going to have another bad run at some point this season. It's kind of inevitable with us at the moment, but you have to take the positives from 3 wins and a draw. Like, there's not many teams that do that through a season. So being able to do that with maybe the lowest ebb of a Man United squad that I've seen in my lifetime is certainly a positive, and hopefully it's the start of better things to come for us.
It is a more positive time. So Graham says no defeats in 4. What a time to be alive for you both. I think just off the back of what it had been, and obviously, we hadn't won back-to-back games, so to consider something like a bit of a run. And that's always, I think, what we said was you just needed a bit of consistency to feel that something was kind of slowly building. And do you feel the same, like there has been some slight tactical tweaks, I think, in terms of the way they're setting up? I think it's a mix of slight changes / I think the players are starting to tweak with what he wants. And particularly the bit I've noticed is that kind of midfield area. Casemiro and Bruno are playing a lot more together. Bruno seems to be understanding that. Whether that's his right role, whether he should be further forward is another conversation. But he does seem to be understanding a little bit more what's required. And also, whether we're pushing in with De Ligt or Shaw into that kind of midfield space, making it difficult in that position. As you said, not the finished article. And I think one player who's come for a bit of criticism, particularly this weekend, was Dalot. Dalot's another one who seems to be frustrating fans in a number of ways. And I think, so it's showing, I think there are still some areas for improvement in the squad. But are you pleased with the fact that when it seems that they've had tricky, rough moments within these games, the response has been more what you would expect? There's more solidarity. As you mentioned, the Brighton game, being able to, it almost turned a bit topsy-turvy, but they did hold it out and they did get that done. The Nottingham Forest game from 2-1 down, that's a United side. We'd have lost that 4-1 last season. That would have gone by the wayside, but they dug in a little bit. Is that one of the things that's giving you most optimism? Is that the grit, the strength, the confidence, belief is there?
Yeah, it's you can definitely see something's come back in the players following that Liverpool game. I think Again, that Liverpool game going the other way could have very much slipped us back into old habits, and we could have gone another bad run playing against Brighton at home and then Forest away. I think that those would last year. I think those would have been two very easy banana skins for us to slip up on. But getting some consistency, like you say, getting the players to see that what Amram's trying to get them to do does work has obviously had a major impact. I think in terms of tactically, I think the biggest thing for me is he's found a way to keep the pressure off the midfield a little bit more, in that Bruno's not getting sort of blocked into tight areas and not having to try these flicks or, try a clever pass to get himself out of trouble. Casemiro's getting a bit more room to operate in. He's not necessarily getting as much pressure on him, which is obviously helping him out because, again, he's not the quickest. He's not the most agile of midfielders at 33 now. So any help we can give him is probably greatly appreciated. But we're starting to see what I expected to see at the start of the season. It's obviously come a few games later, but hopefully it's a start of good things to come. And again, Cunha and Mbeumo being involved up front as well. And obviously we know their experience in the Premier League and how good they are. So they're starting to now finally click a little bit more like I expected them to. So yeah, I think top to bottom, I think we're starting to click a little bit better. But I think, like, if I was to say the starting point, I think it's putting Lamans in goal for the game before Liverpool, which was
Sunderland. Yeah, Sunderland with his debut, wasn't it?
And that, I think, has been a good jumping off point, and you can see that the defense feels a little bit more at ease with him in goal, and that just settles everyone else down as well. When you know the back's fairly secure, then you can go up and go play your game. So yeah, hopefully it continues. I'm not gonna get overhyped and say we're gonna go for a title charge by the end of the year. I'm not going full Andy Tate yet, but obviously a bit more consistency. Again, I expect us to lose plenty of games before the end of the season, but if we can bounce back from defeats and get a couple of wins on the back of those, it's a much better season obviously than maybe we anticipated before that Sunderland game. So yeah, definitely a lot more positivity, which is just a nice feeling to have about Man United, to be fair.
It's a nicer place to be in. As you said, it's wanting to see progression. It's, realistic fans like yourself and I, hopefully, we try and sort of like aware that, there's a long way to go to where we would like to get to. But, you have to start with the building blocks. I saw some people going absolutely ballistic after the Forest game. It's like, guys, come on. Like, I know we got to second, but, for a bit last Saturday, but we're not in a title race at this point in time. Like, there's a long way to go. You're kind of baby steps and you're going to have to take this. And then there's going to be some more bumps in the road that they're going to have to navigate. And it's not just a case of when you win, you're great. When you lose, you're terrible. It's not that straightforward. But this consistency you're seeing give more hope. But we will talk about the Forest United game because the game itself, because we'll give credence. Obviously, I'm sure Forest fans have some points that they want discussed as well. But we will touch on, of course, of the game of the day. It seems to be Corby Town are now 8-3 up with 70. This goal scoring slowed down there. Have a word, Sean. Have a word. It's all gone a bit quiet down at Corby Town. So of the Forest United game, of course, the first goal draped in a bit of ball over line controversy. Grimmy, Forest fans not happy that the ball hadn't crossed the line. It's one of those when you look at the pictures that you can see that it's. They did a piece on this, didn't they, last year? I think Sky Sports in terms of the angle that you can kind of see the ball, etc. Yeah. Really, certainly, because Forest fans have gone a bit. I've seen have gone quite frustrated, annoyed, upset about it. I'm kind of in two minds because I'm like, okay, one, I can see why you're angry that the ball's not, it shouldn't have been a corner. Completely accept that, but you still have to defend the corner. It's not a penalty. It's not a goal. It's a corner. And I know set pieces are really threatening this year, but where do you sit on that decision?
Yeah, I think it was the wrong call. I think you can see, even with the camera not being slightly straight on to the view, I feel like the ball was, in my eyes, was definitely in. I think that Forest fans would probably be less aggrieved if it hadn't happened to them the previous week as well.
Yeah, they're kind of upset
that obviously adds some fuel to the flame, as it were. But it's one of those things that they have to defend the corner, like you say. If they defend it, they probably go, okay, we've had a dodgy decision, but it hasn't affected the game. And they bounce back at half time. It probably gave them a bit of a kick up the backside, to be fair. And they probably went in at half time thinking it's been a pretty unjust ruling there, but we're going to come out, start the second half, hit them with 2 goals in 5 minutes, and we'll turn it around. But yeah, it's one of those. Why the assistant referee is making a definitive call when he's on the opposite side of the pitch, I don't know. Like, unless he's seeing like a massive gap, why wave your flag if you don't know for definite? I don't know, but
it's probably one of those. It's tough either way, though, isn't it? I mean, he's never going to get that. Be 100% sure to make any kind of call, and the realistic list is. We're not going to get goal line technology across the complete line, are we? I mean, I imagine they have to redesign it to some stage because it's linked to the goals, isn't it? I don't know. Potentially, maybe some techie guy will tell me you're wrong, and it's easy to do. But
it's probably not that difficult when you consider how easy it was to implement the goal line technology. Again, I'm not an expert in that field, so again, if someone in the chat is, please let me know. But yeah, I think it's one of those things. Liverpool have scored. What was I going to say? Yeah, so it's just one of those things. I think when it's an area that VAR doesn't check, things like this are going to happen. It's just unfortunate that the goal came straight after. If the goal hadn't come after, they wouldn't be highlighting it as much. I think not just Nottingham Forest fans, by the way. I think the whole footballing public in general wouldn't be as bothered about it. But yeah, it's just one of those things. And, I think at the end of the day, I don't think they've lost the game or, lost out on points because of it. I think the result was the right result. 2-2 was probably a fair result all round. So yeah, I don't think it's as big as probably they're making out to be, but I can certainly understand why they feel aggrieved.
Yeah, the frustrations. And I think, and to be fair to Nottingham Forest and be fair to Sean Dyche, I think they did very well at half-time, changing it up, particularly the way they were putting balls into the box. They really targeted the fullback, particularly on Ahmad's side. We saw a couple of crosses, I think, before, there was one before and after the goal as well, where they were hanging it up to the back post. Obviously, Ahmad's got fantastic strengths and has learned the position, but height and defending aerial at the back post is not one of them. And Morgan Gibbs really got well on top of that. And then Forest really sucked that momentum, and, United didn't defend particularly well for the second one, but Forest were alive, and suddenly to turn a 1-0 into a 2-1. Particularly the form that they've had, it could have been easy for them to sort of, get despondent, as you said, and that's what Dyche would have liked. And I think as well, like it's the to give respect, I think, to Dyche and Amorim as well. I saw the pre-build-up where they were trying to create this narrative, weren't they? Because Dyche had made some comments while I think he was on the overlap, making about Amorim's system. Said, if United played 4-4-2, it'd be straightforward. It wouldn't be a problem. But that's not kind of what he said. And Dyche played it down, and Amorim was pretty fine and said, he's a pundit, he's saying stuff. And I like the reaction from both of those. But we are, of course, we are looking at the moment. I think I'm just a bit behind you, Grimmy. So there's still VAR checking. I don't know if they're still VAR checking for you. Alexis McAllister scored a header.
It's counted. It's done.
It's in. Yeah, I've seen that. And that's now says Liverpool 1-0 at Real Madrid half an hour to go. Are they going to bring Trent on? Do they dare bring Trent on?
If Trent comes on, my will be going on for that just to see what the reaction is.
Particularly now, with the Liverpool fans absolutely bouncing, and that could be horrific. But there you go. I mean, you've got Mbappe, you've got Bellingham, you've got Camavinga, you've got all this quality on there, but you haven't got Harry Maguire. So
that's what they're missing.
Maybe that's what they're missing. It's 9-3 in the Corey game.
Good Lord.
Graham wants 10. Graham savage, absolutely savage. Wants a battering, an absolute battering. Nottingham Forest 2, Manchester United 2. Of course, Ahmad got the equaliser, 2-2. Yep. Almost won it at the end. Really good block by Murillo on the line as well. Looked like it was going to plough through.
Yeah.
But overall, despite all the ins and the outs, as Graham says, decisions even themselves out. Sometimes some of you get, some of you don't. It's the human side of football. Overall, I don't think you couldn't really argue with a draw. I think we're both teams in that game. They both showed enough. So an exciting game of football and a Desmond, So there we go. It's what we do. Bit 100%. Of excitement.
Yeah.
So the last game we're going to cover in a bit more detail, and we're going to go into some games where we'll give more of the kind of highlights on what we're going to. The one I wanted to pick out was not so much because of the game, Grimmy. And we're not one to. I know there's a lot of people on this podcast that do not like XG. There's a big growing, particularly on the lower league, where XG is not a thing. But I think 0.03 XG, Grimmy, one shot on target for Tottenham at home, didn't go down well despite their good starts to the season. Frustrations seem to be a little bit afoot. Van de Ven and Spence walking straight past Thomas Frank. What's going on? Everything looked rosy and good at Tottenham. What's occurred?
I mean, it's a weird one because it was I watched that game and it was a very lifeless performance from Spurs. They just didn't have any zest, I guess is the word I'm looking for. Like there was no juice in the legs for them to get going. And I've been on here before paying my compliments to Frank and how he's been able to get things tactically right. He's got energy in the team again. He's got people running through walls for him, and none of that was on display on Saturday. Like that will probably end up being Tottenham's worst performance of the season, and it couldn't have happened against a worse opponent for the Spurs fans, especially being at home against the biggest rivals. Like, you know, it's bad enough losing a game to your rivals, but losing a game in that manner when there's not much creativity, not much effort, there's not really a lot having gone for them, there isn't a worse feeling as a fan. And when they've paid the money to go watch that, they're bound to feel aggrieved by that, even with the good start to the season that they've had. And it's probably just a bit of a wake-up call to Spurs that they can't keep doing this at home and they can't keep coasting. So yeah, it was a very bizarre one because I thought if there's ever a home game where they're going to turn up and maybe put in a performance and turn this weird home form around, it's probably against Chelsea. But there was just nothing in that performance to get any fan going, never mind a neutral like me, to watch it and go, yeah, that's a great performance. As I see literally Spurs go 4-0 up at at home to Copenhagen. So make of that what you will. But yeah, it was a bizarre, very anti-Spurs performance from what I've seen of them this season so far.
It was very abject. It was very abject. And I think they're struggling a little bit more at home. And I don't know whether that's that midfield double pivot. I mean, so we say that as they're falling up at Copenhagen, of course. But, that midfield pivot of Bentancur and Pelinho, I think suits them really well in away games, perhaps. Maybe there's a bit of a tweak there, maybe for sort of home games where the fans are getting... You can never please fans. So I also get to an extent that, you know, you're a fan, particularly when you're going to watch a game, season ticket. You're going to be there. You've got 2 hours of football that you're watching. You want to be entertained at the end of the day. I know everyone wants to be entertained and you want to win and all the rest of it. And I know some people say, well, if you're winning, you can't. But ultimately, you're watching it then. If you're bored, it's not good. It's not a good sort of sign. You want your team to sort of play with a bit of whatever. And particularly at 1-0 down, you'd have expected that at the very least you start doing something a bit risky. Do you know what I mean? You have to go for it.
You've got to roll the dice, and especially in derby games, like you can't. That a win against Chelsea like that for Frank would have done so much for his value in the fans' eyes, because it would have been people going into the season have gone, is Thomas Frank the guy? Is he gonna get us back into the top 4 or winning trophies? And it's like, if he's going into his big rivalry games and getting performances like that from the players, it's not going to help him, and it's just going to add more pressure on if they start having a bad run, because it'll be performances like that people will turn to and say, look, this is where it started and it's gone wrong for him. So yeah, I think it's probably a one-off, but again, like you say, you've got to roll the dice. You've got to throw something different at them, even if it's just chucking the kitchen sink and throwing the ball in and just crossing the ball in, hoping someone gets a head on it and gets a chance away. Because again, they've got big sturdy players in the team. It's not like they're a lean, smaller team that can't get the head on the ball. So yeah, it was a strange one. But yeah, they needed to roll the dice a little bit more, I think.
They need to have a go, and they got some. I say up next, of course, they've got Manchester United at home, so we'll see what we get at the weekend.
3-0 Spurs, I guarantee it.
Yeah, watch them now. Absolutely, be able to play fantastic football at home, having now just destroyed Copenhagen.
Yeah.
Graham thinks Thomas Frank just wrote on his tactics board. Remember, you are Spurs. Sean thinks a good thing they subbed Bergvall because you could see he was really unsteady on his feet.
Yeah,
he was indeed. Yeah, so a good decision there, but. Then they have Arsenal at the Emirates. So it is an away fixture for that one. An Arsenal team that just don't concede chances. They're not conceding, never mind goals, they're not conceding chances. So there will be added pressure on that one for Spurs, particularly if this weekend doesn't go well. Maybe the pressure starts to sort of then go a bit sort of the other way. But you'd expect that to be the case for Spurs. They've got a lot they're still trying to embed as well, aren't they? I mean, you've got Colin Muani still only just sort of coming to the side. They've had a lot, they've still got injuries in that front line for people that haven't been available and about. You've got James Maddison still out, haven't you? And Kulusevski's been out. They've been key parts of that team. But what did you make of the Van de Ven Spence? I know Frank's tried to play it down, isn't he? And said, oh, yeah, that was, but we dealt with it. He didn't make a big thing about it. What do you think? What was that all about? Was that it seemed more than just a frustration of the game had been crap. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, it's not a great look, even if you can, even with the greatest PR spin in the world, that still is not a good look for a manager. Whether it's Alex Ferguson being there for 20 plus years, or it's, Sean Dyche in his first 2 weeks at Forest, it's no matter what period of time you are as a manager, you can't have players doing that. Like, there has to be a line where basically that's not acceptable. And I know Frank played it down. He's probably done the right thing. And I think the players might have come out with basically trying to calm it down, saying we were just frustrated at the result and how we played and this, that, and the other. And again, reasoning is fair enough, but you don't have to do a lot there. You can just sort of handshake the guy and just walk past him and not even, say a word to him. You can just keep walking. You don't have to do anything else, but just, showing disrespect to your manager, especially this early doors when there's already plenty of question marks in the Spurs fan base over Thomas Frank and what he's going to do for them. Having players do that will not help Thomas Frank in any way, shape, or form. So yeah, they better buck up their ideas and put in a performance next week. Though, if they couldn't, just for one more week and just hold off on that, I'd greatly appreciate it.
If they've extended it against Copenhagen, that's fine, and then want to go back to more like that. But
exactly, Sam.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's definitely not the kind of positive vibes that they need going off the pitch. But speaking of positive vibes, it's our superstar of positive vibes on the pod. Driti is with us, just popping in to say hello. Hope everyone is well. Hope you are as well, Driti. Of course, Bradford storming things up in League One at the moment. Her and Claire sitting. It's a podcasters loving League One at the minute, absolutely dominating it, those two. But yeah, it's interesting for them. But another win for Chelsea, who seem to have become, they're just so difficult to know what Chelsea are, because this is definitely the example. I think Van Dijk was talking about the weekend, I think, where everyone had been on Liverpool and he's like, everything's so reactionary, like, they were storming things last season, and then we had people calling for Arne Slot to be sacked last week on the pod because they'd lost a few games. And Van Dijk, I think, was saying it's just 1 week reactionary to the others. But it's hard with Chelsea because they do seem to sort of jump around between results. Last week they got beat by Sunderland at home, and we're getting sort of pelters. And then this looks like a really good victory away at a Spurs side that have been playing well. Is some of this just because it's a young, inconsistent side, or that this is the way that Maresca's playing with them? What do you think with Chelsea?
I think that's exactly what it is, Sam. You've hit the nail on the head. It's the young, inexperienced, inconsistent nature of how they operate as a club and how they've operated really since Abramovich has left. It's bringing in young players with not a lot of experience, but all the bags of potential in the world, where some weeks you're going to get a great performance and then other weeks they are going to hit a bit of a pothole and just not really hit the marks that you expect them to. That being said, they're starting to get some players now like Caicedo's and Fernandez's, who are going to have a bit more experience now because they've been in and around the setup for a little while or had a few seasons there, where basically they'll become your leaders. And I think if they keep hold of those players, because again, bigger clubs could come along and nab them, the likes of, and I'm thinking of like Madrid and, you know, Barca and people like that. People could come along and obviously take them off Chelsea's hands, and Chelsea might be happy with that because it continues the model of selling players on and being able to bring younger players in. But at some point, if Chelsea are ever going to make that final step, they have to add more experience in key areas, whether it's up front, whether it's at the back, whether it's certainly got to be in goal, I think. I mean, I made no bones about it that when Donnarumma came up for a transfer from PSG, I was like, if Chelsea don't try and get hold of him, that is a big mistake on their part, I think, because he would have shored them up 10 times over than what any other goalkeeper on the planet could really do. And he's been doing really well for City. Look what some of the saves he made yesterday were great, and he's made over the course of the season. But yeah, this Chelsea having the inconsistency, but then turning up in some of the bigger games is what exactly I would expect with the youth they have in the squad. And until maybe these players have a bit more bedding in time, or maybe a season or two more together, without the team sort of being juggled more during a summer transfer window, I think that's when maybe you'll start to see that consistency creep in when they've got a bit more experience together. But it's going to take time. But is that the way Chelsea are going to operate? Only the owners can tell us that, really. But yeah, it's one of those things that Chelsea will have to deal with if they don't change the model and how they operate, unfortunately.
It seems to be it's how they do it. And Graham's going for a bit of movie producing here. Forget me, myself, and Irene. It's me, myself, and Maresca, according to Graham. So I'd get Netflix on the phone, get Disney on the phone. Yeah, everybody. I think that's the next football documentary made by Graham there about Chelsea. But yeah, this is it. And I mean, Cole Palmer's not that far away from return either, I think. And you know, you just think you sort of had him sort of firing in there, as you said, that there's still enough that's you know, that there is to worry about. But I think this is what's interesting about this year's Premier League, because take Arsenal out of the equation for the minute, because I think they're a very different side in the squad in terms of what they've built up. But there's weaknesses in the rest of the teams that are sort of fighting up there, and it's sort of everyone kind of puts a case towards, but the inconsistency has been a real thing for multiple teams already this season that are up there, that you could say, well, maybe they'll challenge, and then you get an inconsistent bit. I mean, you've only got to look at City losing to Villa last week when it seemed that they were starting to put something together.
Yeah.
Chelsea here and there, back and forth, you know, Liverpool's complete drop off over the recent weeks where, you know, they were storming at the early stage, and Arsenal was staying there as kind of the consistent. And this is why I like not wanting to get expectations up with United, but you look around at the teams and go, do you know what, that area, that mix is not, it's not beyond possibility that teams can go in there. I'm not just saying United, I'm saying this is why, you know, Bournemouth are knocking on the door, like Sunderland are knocking on the door.
Sunderland is the one that blows my mind so much so far this season. But yeah, it's crazy how inconsistent teams have been. That's the thing that surprised me the most this season out of everything.
And I say Arsenal could just do that as well. Imagine what would have in front of them. But I think they're a different setup. Sadly, from a title race, but for everybody else, it's very exciting Premier League season, no doubt about it. Yeah. So let's have another look at a couple of games that we haven't touched on yet, just on sort of a couple of big points. Let's go to this one next. Brighton beating Leeds 3-0. Obviously, Brighton beaten by Manchester United the week before. Looks kind of a little bit open on the rest of it, but looked a little bit, it could have been 5, I think, in the first half, and then they came out looking a little bit hungry sort of in the second half. Is one of Leeds' worst performances of the season, Grimmy? A big difference between the two teams there?
Yeah, I would say it's up there, definitely. Again, it's one of those places, Brighton, that even the bigger teams struggle to go to, and I think that most teams that'll go there will be doing well to really pick up anything. Brighton isn't the easiest place to go through. We know as United fans, it's not a happy training. It's not a happy ground for us to go to. But yeah, in terms of Leeds' overall performances, there hasn't been many that I can think of really off the top of my head where I've thought they've played particularly poorly. I'd say maybe the Arsenal game early in the season is probably the only one that comes to mind. But other than that, they've kind of been in most of the games that they've played in. Brighton just played, I think, well enough and were so good going forward, Danny Welbeck is like a fine wine, just gets better with age. Why did we ever sell him?
What a wine, Grimmy! What a wine!
What a wine! And you know, people. I mean, wasn't there a report or something out today saying that he might have a chance at the World Cup? I'm like, absolutely. Let's get Danny Welbeck on that plane.
My next question to you was already going to be that. Talk to me, Grimmy. Danny Welbeck, England squad, possibility.
Nothing. There would be nothing I would love more than Danny Welbeck on that plane, Sam. But again, the opportunity is there for him. If he keeps doing this and keeps putting in performances and stays injury free, which is the biggest thing for Danny Welbeck, if he stays relatively injury free, there isn't many options in front of him at this moment in time, unless there is like a surprise contender that comes out of nowhere that I can think of that started the season well enough to warrant being in that squad. So the ball is very much in Danny Welbeck's court, and if he can keep the consistency going, which we know he can, there's no reason why he can't be on that plane and to go to USA next summer. There's no reason.
Well, look at the strikers. I mean, obviously, Harry Kane, oh my God, they're bringing Trent Alexander-Arnold on. That place is going to bloody go nuts.
Audio on.
You've got. I mean, obviously, Harry Kane's the striker. We all know that. But then Ollie Watkins has not started the season particularly well. He's obviously got equity because of how he played, I think, for England in the past, and I think the way that they set up, I think, can help with Watkins. But then you look outside of that and you're looking at people like, okay, Ivan Toney is still playing in Saudi Arabia, has dropped kind of out of contention in terms of what he's doing. You've got Dominic Solanke's been injured, not really doing anything when he's kind of been at Tottenham, has dropped down sort of the pecking order as well. Liam Delap's been injured, was another name that's sort of being stuck in there. As you said, there is a possibility, and there might be a call for someone that can do what Danny Welbeck does at the point of a game. I mean, imagine Danny Welbeck coming on scoring a really important goal for England. It might just be beautiful. Hang on a minute, Trent's coming on. Bear with me.
The boos are loud.
There are the boos coming through my television. Oh my word!
It's not. You know, it's not as bad as I thought it would be.
Why have they done that to him?
Okay. It's got worse now. He's on the pitch. Yeah. Okay.
Why have Real Madrid done that to him? I mean, one thing to come back, start him, he deals with it every time he touches the ball. I get it. Bring him on as a sub. 10 minutes ago.
Imagine if they get a free kick in the last minute.
Stop it! Don't do this.
Imagine. Could you imagine? Oh, it'd be beautiful.
It could be a moment. But speaking of late goals, Graham's had one. For Charlton. Sonny Carey, Harry Maguire style in the 90s.
Can you imagine if that was West Bromwich scored and he's put that in the chat?
And he's gone for it. Graham's gone full. I mean, Graham's down the road. He's down the road. Shirts off the lot. It's the last minute winner. Unbelievable scene. So congratulations, Graham. Big result for you guys. But there was a spot potentially for Danny Welbeck. But I mean, it's just lovely to see that's kind of. He really has found his home at Brighton, isn't he? He really has found his home. And they've had strikers and lots of other options. And Welbeck's been that kind of consistency amongst it. 2 goals, of course, for Diego Gomez as well this weekend. So players around can contribute him. But from Danny Welbeck perspective, always keep that wine on tap. That's what we say. Keep that wine on tap for Danny Welbs.
Every time Brighton score, I'm always checking to see if it's Danny Welbeck.
Yeah.
That's the only time I'm ever checking anything for Brighton is if it's Welbeck. Because when we sold him, I felt like we'd made a big mistake. I know he's had his injury problems and things like that, but he felt like one of those ones that we should have kept hold of when we sold him. I think it was under Van Gaal, wasn't it, when he went to Arsenal? And
yeah, it's just players that you need, and you need to use them in circumstances, and they're always going to give you that consistent performance and what you're going to get, and the threat that he does offer. I mean, he's just. Yeah, love Danny. He's the one player, like, when you do an FPL, I don't care if he's in my dream team or not, I'm going to be happy when he scores. I'm like, that's going to cost me 5 points to compare to. I don't care. This Danny Welbeck deserves it. Top pro, top legend, the main man. And the final game, which, probably ties up nicely because we're watching the end of Liverpool-Real Madrid at the moment. So we'll put this on. So we probably won't talk too much about Liverpool-Aston Villa. Should we talk a little bit about what we've got half seen with Liverpool versus Real Madrid? This could be a really important week for them because obviously since we've spoken, Manchester United have been doing this. But Liverpool had been doing that in the
nose
kind
diving,
yeah. What have you made of what's been going on at Liverpool?
Bizarre. I mean, I know we've said on the pod since the start of the season they haven't been playing to their full potential, but they've been getting the results, and it just felt like they were going to do what they did all those years ago under Klopp, when they didn't start that well performance-wise, but then just kept going. And then, six out of 7 games they lost or something? That was the stat. It was mental.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone saw that from them as maybe as not great as maybe some of the players had been, but it's like you say, it's turning into a crucial week for them. Winning against Villa, if they win against Madrid, and then if they can get a result against City, that's a whole total turnaround of what the season was potentially looking like. 10 days ago? So yeah, it's a bizarre one, but again, the quality in that squad, I think no one should have really felt like it was going to be a sustained period of losses or bad form or whatever. But I think the squad is more than good enough, as we've seen with the performances against Villa, because I think the Villa performance was probably their best performance of the season in terms of consistency, even though there was still a couple of moments for Villa. It was definitely the best performance so far. And again, they've played well. They've played relatively well against Madrid. Madrid haven't had that many close chances. They've had a few decent shots on target, but nothing really to write home about. And yeah, it's another step in the right direction. And then if they went and got even a draw, I think against City would be a big result for them. So, but obviously in terms of the title race, you want to try and get 3 points so you can keep us relatively close to Arsenal's for as long as you can. So yeah, it's a strange run of form, one that I've personally enjoyed a little bit, just because of all the stick I've been getting from my Liverpool supporting friends over the course of the past year. No bias whatsoever. But yeah, it's one of those things that, as fun as it was always going to be short-lived, I think. I didn't think it was going to be their version of City's collapse last year, as I'll put it. But yeah, I expect them to probably go on a run again now, unfortunately, and probably somehow catch Arsenal and put them in for a title challenge maybe before the end of the year, because it's Liverpool, isn't it? So they'll hurt me again.
Well, that's, oh my God, Courtois has made another phenomenal save, but Salah, block as well. Yeah, exactly that. It was the qualities that I think we've been saying all along, even when they're sort of not playing, that the quality in terms of what they've got, there's a lot to work with. There's a lot to work with, and you can tweak different things. And I think it was just a lot of players being slightly off it at the kind of same time, and structure-wise, stuff wasn't kind of working. But I think, yeah, the stuff about, I couldn't believe I was reading sort of like the slot out, they wanted Iraola, and you just go in, what are we doing at the moment? Like, if there's one guy that's probably earned the opportunity to put a bad run, and we're talking about a bad run, we're talking about 5 or 6 games, we're not talking about, and I know that, everything is about, you're judged on the now, and because Arsenal are getting away, everybody wants to be there and sort of fighting them. But the reality is Liverpool winning the title last season was a surprise. No one knew what was going to happen when sort of Slot came in. And while I think a lot of the narrative has been, wow, it's just Klopp's team, to an extent it was, but Klopp's team finished 3rd and 5th the seasons before. They weren't title-winning Klopp teams. They were progressing there, don't get me wrong. It was a progressing Liverpool side, and I think everybody felt that they were certainly improving. And you can't deny what they've got, that it will kind of come back. For a title, and the consistency looks to be difficult with what Arsenal are doing. But, wins over Real Madrid and that are only going to boost their confidence further. So Liverpool 100%. City could be very, very tasty.
Yeah.
Very, very tasty indeed. So let's pull up the match day, the full match day fixtures from match day 10 across the board in terms of what we had. So the ones we didn't talk about was Burnley 0, Arsenal 2. Arsenal scored from their corner. A set piece, Grimmy.
Sorry.
At this point, is there and I think it was an assist, wasn't it, from Gabriel? Is there a better guy at heading a football than Gabriel in world football at the moment? I mean,
not really.
I saw someone talking about this earlier, actually, on another podcast, and was saying the problem probably is the fact that normally you have a centre back or someone that can deal with it, but that would be Gabriel in that circumstance. If you wanted to stop Gabriel, like, I don't know who you would kind of put on him defensively. Van Dijk, maybe, like, that might have a chance. But he's just so strong and dominant in the air. Like, that is a real cheat code, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, I mean, Arsenal are set up, like we were saying about City and Haaland. Arsenal are set up to play to their strengths, and what they do works. And Gabriel is obviously a big, big component of that. You could see when he got injured at the back end of last season how much they missed him. And obviously him coming back in at the start of this year, or start of this season, he's obviously been a main component for the past couple of seasons. And he's doing it again this year. And he's going to be one of those people that he could probably go score 5 to 10 goals for Arsenal this year and probably be a big difference maker in terms of not only the goals for column, but also the goals against column. And will probably contribute a massive chunk of points for Arsenal this year based on his performances alone. So, yeah, he's a massive part of how they play, and he's going to do that in set pieces defending or set pieces attacking. So, yeah, he started the season really well, and that's where Arsenal are getting their defensive consistency from, is from the likes of him doing what he does. So, yeah, and I don't think it's going to stop anytime soon, to be fair. So, yeah. See what happens.
And they're just not conceding chances. Like, they're just not, and they're shutting games down in a way. They're reminiscent of how Chelsea used to do it in their kind of Mourinho aspects. As soon as they sort of get ahead, that's it, shut down. Yep. Maybe it's not for the neutral the most exciting to watch, but it's effective. And, that seems to be, strong defences lead you towards titles, and they can see 3 goals for us. I think we had more shots on target in that first game against them than they've had since in like their past games since then. They really are just a tightened up team, and the squad depth. You can, I think Gyökeres missed this, the trip to Slavia Prague, I think, for the Champions League win, but Havertz is almost on the way back, and they proved they can play with Marino as well. Like, and if they're scoring set pieces, kind of doesn't matter really. Like, the defense is going to shut it down, and you've got Eze coming. Yeah, Odegaard's out, but Eze's there, not a problem. Okay, Madueke's injured, but he was in when Saka was out for a little bit. Great, you got options with Zubamendi, and they've signed even players like Christian Norgard, who were right for Brentford last year. We haven't even seen him. Those players are still there in the backup in case that they need him. Obviously not perhaps the same level as the top ones that they've got, but and Declan Rice has become an absolute midfielder superstar really. But elsewhere we have on that list that we didn't touch on. We did touch on that one. We touched Crystal Palace winning against Brentford. Yeah, Jean-Philippe back amongst the goals. Good win for them. Much needed for Palace. Yeah, European football as well to contend with. So it's tough. I think Palace had a couple of tough games, didn't they, last few weeks? So I think they'd had a bit of a stutter. Yeah, they lost to Everton, drew with Bournemouth, and lost to Arsenal. So much needed win to stick amongst there. Where are you at with Palace? Are they ones that you think could sneak in?
I think as the season goes on, and as Europe obviously becomes more of a factor, I think that they might struggle because of the lack of depth. And again, if someone like a Mateta or someone like that or Gray or someone like that gets an injury, I think that could destabilize them a little bit. Obviously, defensively, they're one of probably the best organized in the league, and you can never doubt that. I think it's more the depth is my concern with Palace. I don't see them being able to fight on 2 or 3 different fronts if they have another cup run, if they do well in Europe, and then and are doing relatively well in the league. I just can't see them. I think they might just be outside the European spots. Maybe like a 12th, 13th finish, I think, is where I had them at the start of the season. I think that's whereabouts they are at the minute. Would love to be proven wrong, because I actually like watching Palace play, because I like the way they just like get the ball at the pitch, don't worry about anything else, give it to Mateta and let the big lad finish. So it works for City. It can work for Mateta and Palace as well. Why not? So yeah, we'll see.
See, it's possible. I like Palace. I do. I like their team. I agree with you. I think the squad depth's my worry. The number of games that they are having. And they've had a run now in the EFL Cup as well, and they seem to have played a lot of the players that regularly play as well. So I do worry about them a little bit later on. But the quality's certainly there. I think on sort of first teams and the way they can play and how difficult that they can be to beat. And then top 10 for me, I could easily see. Possibly beyond again this year if they can hold the squad together and what happens in Europe at the end of it. And the other game that we didn't was the Monday night fixture, the podcast derby. Oh yes, Graham, of course, he was sitting on the fence with Crystal Palace with his child on. A firm no from Graham. And he says he likes to keep the show balanced, that he doesn't like Palace. Of course, everyone has a rival. But what wasn't a rival was a lovely podcast friendship between Ant and Rebecca on Monday, where they shared the points respectively.
And I'm sure there were no complaints whatsoever from either side.
No, this is it. Everybody was fair. Probably a good point for both sides, actually, when you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
In terms of I think the way the game went, probably not unfair. Lovely goal, as Graham says, from Ndai. And another decent result was Sunderland continued to pick up points and merge towards that sort of target. So we had Anton last week, who of course is loving Sunderland life at the moment, and that well continues. Fixtures coming up, I think, get a bit harder. He was saying, they've had a reasonable run, but they have got Arsenal coming up, Bournemouth, Liverpool, Manchester City are awaiting. Some heavier clashes, but Regis Lebris, fantastic job so far for Sunderland. 100%. So all in all, that leaves the Premier League table currently sat as is. So Arsenal are 6 points clear after 10 matches, ahead of Manchester City. Liverpool and Sunderland still squeaking up there in fourth, just on goal difference to Bournemouth and to Tottenham. We are, of course, on that left-hand side, Grimmy, so that's a positive goal difference. So,
what a time to be alive.
What a time to be alive. What a dream that we live. And down the bottom, obviously, West Ham's win. They're still in the relegation zone. However, they're in touching distance now. Only 3 points behind Burnley in 17th. Nottingham Forest draw, but they're still 19th. And of course, with Wolves, as we started off the sacking of Vítor Pereira and the lowly 2 points that they sit with, 8 points currently away from safety. Real work to do with a minus 15th goal difference. It's not ideal. It's not ideal.
Not ideal, yes.
It's fair to be said. As Liverpool have defeated Real Madrid 1-0, Alexis McAllister, the difference maker there. They have got the 3 points across the line. Big win for them. Madrid tend to do this, though, in the group stage, don't they? It's they'll lose a game or two like this, and then there'll be different animal in the knockout stages. But good game from what I saw. Good game. Liverpool will need that. That might push them on, but will they have enough to catch Arsenal? Let's wait and see. And Graham with his stats, top half have a positive goal difference, bottom half have a negative goal difference. It's almost like the table never lies. Except sometimes it does.
Except sometimes.
Sometimes it does. So there we are, Grimmy. We've done it all. We haven't got any Europe to talk about today, although we will mention, because I am following this closely, not just because Rebecca loves a bit of Scotland, but Big Shanks, more goals this weekend. They did see off Dundee this weekend, but Big Shanks amongst the goals. Hearts are on the run to that Scottish. We want that Scottish. There's not been a winner of the Scottish Premiership that's not Celtic or Rangers, Grimmy, since before I was born, and a manager we know very well.
Very, very well, yes.
Very, very well indeed.
A legend in these parts.
A legend, as is Big Shanks, who's driving Hearts that victory and is back in the Scotland squad. Podcast favourite, Big Shanks. God bless you. He's on the run. But thank you, Grimmy. It's been lovely to have you back today, talking football, talking everything Premier League. When you're not on your travels, where can everybody catch you? And also, have you played the new Football Manager? I know as you're a Football Manager man, or are you still delving in, or is it too risky with the dangers of social media and then the reaction to make any comment on Football Manager at the moment?
Yeah, I've played a few hours. Obviously the beta came out whilst I was away, so I didn't get to jump in like everyone else did. I wasn't envious at all sitting on the other side of the Atlantic. But yeah, I when we got back last week, I played a few hours. I personally think it's okay. I don't think it's as good as what 24 was because it's the start of a new cycle and it's obviously a new engine and they're obviously starting brand new essentially. But I don't think it's as bad as maybe people are making out to be, which may be a shocking revelation for some. I don't know. But yeah, I've been enjoying it. I've started a Man United save, which will come as a shock to no one. What did I do? I beat Arsenal first game of the season. I lost to Fulham. I lost to City, and then I beat who was fourth? Chelsea? No. Was it Chelsea? I can't remember. Basically, I have 6 points from like 4 games. So I think I've done okay to start off with. And Buemo is my hero. He seems to be getting 8s and 9s every single game. So long may that continue. But yeah, I think so far so good is what I've seen in my save. I know other people around us and maybe in the Football Manager community aren't maybe so happy about it, but that's their opinion and they're entitled to it. So I'm not going to argue with them because why would I argue with the internet? That's a very silly thing to do.
Absolutely, there is a battle that you cannot win. I didn't play obviously the last game as much as probably said you or some of the others sort of out there. So for me, it's probably getting back into it a little bit. And I played the beta, and some of the early beta was pretty sketchy with some issues. However, that's why it's a beta, so you kind of go with the run with that. But yeah, same as I've started obviously with United just to kind of get familiar with the game. I'm not as far as you. I've had a draw against Arsenal in my opening game, so I'm points behind you, but I'm more optimistic on my Fulham trip. So we'll see what happens there.
Also, of course, there's the women's football, which we've got to try at some point
too. Yes, so that's going to have to be utilised and used with the knowledge that we have from the women's football team. Yeah, will be needed. I signed Elliot Anderson, by the way, Grimmy, for our midfield situation.
How did you manage that?
Saudi came in big for Diego Dallo. So I took him out and bought a younger right back from Espanyol that's coming for me, see. And then I used the money with installments to secure.
We cornered that transfer.
We worked that one in to get Mr. Anderson in through the door, so I'm interested. However, things didn't go well with my new right back. I forgot to register, and then he wanted a meeting the next day.
I'm not surprised.
Unhappy, and I had to hit the button and said, "I'm sorry, I completely forgot to register you. I'll do it now." So we've dealt with that. However, his mood is not too happy. So there you go. There's my experience of Football Manager so far.
Excellent.
I missed a trick with that one, but we all learn. That's why it's a great game and why football is so great. But where can everybody find you, Grimmy? Did you say? I forgot. We were talking Football Manager.
So at the minute, the main places to find me are on Twitter, as you can find on the screen if I point the right direction. That way. There. Yeah, that way. Grimmy16 on Twitter. And then my other project that I'm working on at the minute is my wrestling podcast YouTube thing with Bragster, which is called Taking the Pin. That's something that hasn't been worked on for a couple of weeks because obviously I've been away, but we will be getting videos back up there shortly. So if you like wrestling and you're a wrestling fan, then check us out on there. But other than that, it will be just me on Twitter. And then whenever I'm on here, and then when we get the watch-alongs going again for the Premier League, we'll be doing those again, hopefully in the near future. So yeah, keep your eyes peeled on our channel or on the Absolute Football social media channels because we will let you know when they're happening.
There is going to be more. This is it. Grimmy's back, so we're going to start to plan some new watch-alongs, which is very exciting. And you can catch me at Sam Absolute FBL on Twitter, on TikTok, and I am working on some new stuff for my YouTube channel at Sam Absolute FBL, but that's taking a bit of time. There's lots going on with the podcast. There's lots we're trying to sort and whatever, and of course we have the Football Content Awards coming up in a couple of weeks, so I've got to take the trek up north. I've got to risk Ellen Road, Grimmy. My word. Myself and Dreety in particular are in enemy territory there for the clubs that we support. So wish me the best of luck. Just to get,
I'll do my good luck dance to make sure you don't get cursed while you're in that ground. It's fine.
This is it. You see, I can always say I want a trophy at Tottenham Hotspur Stadium before they did, as I tell my cousins quite regularly when they try to rub the Europa League in the face. It's like I did it first.
And then you just pull out your trophy and go.
Well, I would. Said I'd have to go to Josh's mantelpiece and pick it off of there.
You've got to go to Josh, yeah.
And Joyty knows what I mean. She knows what I mean. But of course, the main place to check it all out, as Grimmy mentioned, the Absolute Football Podcast. If you're new to us and what we do, this is what we do. We do shows. We do them 4 times live a week with the many podcasters and fantastic people that we have on our shows. We are Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, all at 8:30 live. On Monday, it's Shah and in partnership with NL Full Time, the absolutely non-league show, talking National League North, National League South with the brilliant team on a Monday. You've also got on Tuesday, of course, myself, Grimmy, sometimes Rebecca, sometimes Heather, sometimes Lucas. Ant's been on as well. Got a mixture team where we talk Premier League. We'll be back next Tuesday, talking about the wonderful matches that happen this weekend. And on Wednesday, the Absolutely Women's Football Show, they are on tomorrow with Freya and hashtag Team Chaos. And we've got a debut, Grimmy. Very exciting debut tomorrow. Kai is joining us. Kai is joining us all the way from India to talk about Women's Super League. Yeah, to be fair, the time difference over there, it's very impressive.
Yeah, that is quite a big time difference.
It's very impressive. It's very impressive. So looking forward to Kai's debut tomorrow. And of course, there will be Freya, there'll be Paul, and I think we've got Danny on as well, who's wonderful. So that's brilliant team for tomorrow. And on Thursday, the Absolutely Lower League show, Shah and the Rowdy Rabble, talking everything EFL, Championship, League One, and League Two. And this week, FA Cup, because there was lots and lots of FA Cup games as well as some Championship games. So plenty to talk about there. Get your match reports ready for that. And you do have interviews on the channel. You have club episodes, New Women in Football. And if you are a YouTube member, you get the joy of an episode that I recorded last week with the wonderful Anthony Waterson, of course, our wonderful Ant. Get to know Ant. It's all on the channel there, but you have to be a YouTube member. And you can find out behind the scenes Ant's love for Sunderland, how he became a podcast, his journey with the Absolute Football Podcast. We tell some stories from the Football Content Awards last year and bits and pieces, so do check that out. And, of course, all of the socials. Twitter, Absolute Ball Pod, YouTube, Absolute Football Podcast, same as Twitch, TikTok, Absolute Football Pod, Instagram, Absolute Football Podcast _ Blue Sky, Absolute Football, and on Facebook, the Absolute Football Podcast.
Have you written all that down, ladies and gentlemen? Because that's a long list.
If you've got it all. If not, just screenshot this. Just check it out. Just you can pause it afterwards and go back and make sure you're following all of those wonderful things. You don't miss a thing. As Graham says, great episode with Ant. Fantastic stuff we've got lined up in the future with a few more bits to do as well. But for now, we'll let you get on. Thank you for joining us. Have a wonderful evening. We'll catch you next week with some more football. Ciao for now.